Just as it says in the Volume 8 opening, sometimes it's worth it all to risk the fall and fight for every life. Up until now, everything has been a risk, in one form or another, for all parties involved, and as the options continue to dwindle, even greater risks are going to need to be taken. With that being said, I will say spoiler warning for those who have not seen episode 11 of RWBY Volume 8. I won't be showing the episode or any clips from it in this video, simply images of the episode and analyzing the events that take place. I will leave a link in the description below so you guys can go to Rooster Teeth first, watch the episode there, and support the series that we all love. Now, before I begin my review, I do want to point everyone's attention to the 3 theory videos I released earlier this week, as each of them had predictions that turned out to be quite related to this episode, some turning out to be true and some being set up for the future, especially that video about Summer Rose. That is very relevant to the entire events of RWBY, and based on this episode, a lot of it, or all of it, is likely going to be true. So I highly recommend checking out at least that video and the others after you watch this review. The episode itself starts off with Ironwood's speech going out and being heard by everyone in Atlas and Mantle. It looks as though even the people who are in the subways of Atlas are starting to lose faith in their leader, that, well, they might not be okay at this point. As if the Grimm swarming the city weren't already an indication, but now even more so. Plus, with the amount of Grimm that we see roaming throughout the city, I wouldn't be surprised if they are able to make it into the subways without too much difficulty, because the subways don't really look like they have gates or doors on them, so that might end up happening soon. We also see in the city of Mantle that everyone is in the mines. The happy huntresses Fiona, May, and Joanna, as they hear Ironwood's speech and are giving into despair themselves. Fiona begins to cry as May and Joanna are there to support her. Everything is looking pretty bleak from all angles. We then see Ironwood and Winter walking through Atlas Academy, which was a bit surprising to me that Winter is still at Ironwood's side, because after he found out that Winter released Jean, Yang, and Ren, I thought that Ironwood might kind of toss Winter aside, because as Ironwood said, loyalty is everything, and by releasing the prisoners, Winter kind of disobeyed Ironwood. I thought that that would have really broken Ironwood's trust with her. Apparently not, though. They walk past the 2 soldiers that we saw last episode who told Ironwood about Crow and Robin's escape, and they are still terrified of Ironwood. We then see the rest of the Ace Ops as they are a bit conflicted, or at least some of them are, about Ironwood's new plan. Marrow, in particular, is very much against it. Elm is a bit on the fence. Vine says that this may be the only way to get the kids to listen to reason, and Harriet just doesn't care at all. Ironwood and Winter then arrive where the rest of the Aesops are, and Ironwood tells them to prepare drones to take the bomb to Mantle. I talked about this in my video earlier this week discussing what Ironwood's fate is going to be, that he might use automated drones to take the bomb. Even if he is killed, the bomb would still be delivered. So, depending on how things turn out, if Ironwood comes to his senses, he might have to be the one who stops this by sacrificing his own life, but we'll have to see. Obviously, Winter is shocked at hearing this information, realizing that Ironwood wasn't bluffing in his message, that he really means to take Mantle out of the equation. And the rest of the Aesops are a bit shocked by this as well, Marrow in particular, as he speaks up against Ironwood, saying that he believed in him, that he put his trust in him, thought he was doing the right thing. The rest of the Aesops try to stop him. Harriet in particular just threatens to shut him up, Vine tries to convince him otherwise, and even Elm is saying, you know, I don't really like this either, but this might be the only way. Marrow continues, however, pushing past them and saying that he feels his rank is a collar, and he is about to abandon the Aesops. But as he turns his back on Ironwood, he hears a gun being cocked, and realizes that Ironwood's about to shoot him in the head. But Winter tackles him and saves Marrow's life, putting him in cuffs and telling Ironwood that she'll take the traitor to the brig. Obviously, both of them do not agree with this plan, and with Winter still trying to seem loyal to Ironwood, she's taking Marrow away, and they will both probably defect at that point. It's notable, though, that Ironwood was going to shoot Marrow with the black pistol or the black revolver of Due Process, the one that fires gravity dust, so I wonder if that would have been a one-shot kill. Not to mention, Marrow being a member of the Aesops, the second he heard the gun cock behind him probably would have had his aura up, so I don't know if that would have been a one-shot kill like Ironwood did to Sleet, so it's debatable how that actually would have turned out, but Winter certainly saved Marrow's life and avoided that conflict entirely. And Ironwood still trusted Winter to take Marrow to the brig, so that's interesting as well. Whether Ironwood predicts that Winter will betray him entirely is another question, but yeah, things are certainly getting more and more interesting. Ironwood is losing more of those who are loyal to him. Elm is probably going to defect at this point too. Vine and Harriet seem like they're going to stay loyal, especially Harriet as she's focused on her anger with Clover, but yeah, Ironwood's losing those loyal to him. Then we cut to the Schnee Manor, where all of Team RWBY, as well as Oscar and Emerald, are a bit of at a loss of what to do. They do not know where to proceed. Crow and Robin are still imprisoned by Ironwood, so they can't really act there, and there are drones watching the people of Mantle, so it's not like they can try to save them either. So RWBY is saying that it's just impossible then. They can't go after Ironwood, they can't go after Mantle, they are stuck with nothing to do. Emerald then speaks up, essentially saying that, well, if the hero doesn't have a plan, then we're kinda screwed. Of course, angering everyone else there who still doesn't trust her, and Oscar speaks up saying, this distrust is not getting us anywhere. To which RWBY says, we're exactly where we started yesterday then, when they were arguing about what to do, either save the people of Mantle or get Amity back up and running. They were disagreeing, not trusting each other, and, well, now they are just stuck at a stalemate. RWBY ends up running out of the room in frustration, and Yang follows her. We then see Jean boosting Nora's aura, trying to heal her wounds. Nora is looking very unimpressed, and Jean says that no matter how much he is boosting her aura, the scars from pushing her semblance beyond its limits just aren't going away. And it'll be interesting to see if those remain permanent, a reminder of how far Nora is willing to push herself to help those around her. But for her to come to that realization about her actions, she'll have to hop over a couple other mental hurdles first, because right now she's not thinking too fondly about what she did. She lashes out at Ren, saying that he pushed everyone away just to avoid feeling things that are hard. They were supposed to be a team. And Ren admits his own failure, that he was so angry with himself, that he wanted to push himself to get stronger so that he wouldn't fail again. But his greatest failures were as a teammate and as a partner. At this point, Jean realizes that Nora and Ren are about to have a bit of a moment, and so he exits the room, saying that it's all water under the bridge, Ren, I'm gonna go help Klein with Penny. Ren tells Nora that he was holding the team back, but Nora thinks that she was holding the team back as well, saying that all she's ever been good for is making dumb jokes and hitting things with a hammer. But Ren tells her that she is wrong, that she puts everything she has into what she does, that she supports everyone around her, and helps without worrying about how much it will hurt. This is what he loves about her, and he tells Nora straight up that he loves her, to which she turns away. She then reveals that her mother had left her when the Grimm attacked, but it was Ren who found her, and ever since then they had been Ren and Nora. But on this mission, Nora realized that she doesn't know who just Nora is, and needs to find that out before she can be the partner that Ren deserves, that Ren needs, and asks Ren if that is okay. Ren looks at her and sees the emotions around her, that the flower petals are all a bright, vibrant pink/white in color, and says that that is completely fine. And then Ren boops her nose, which is something I think a lot of us have been waiting for a long time, but I really, really hope they haven't missed their chance. When Nora turned away from Ren, my heart sank, because in the video I released just 2 days ago, I talked about how there are a few death flags around their relationship, and this just adds another one to it. I really hope that they can have the opportunity to be together and be happy together, but Volume 8 is still far from over, and there is a lot yet to come. I really want happiness for these two, but we will have to wait and see if that can happen. And then we see Crow as he gets his weapon back. Robin is also there, realizing that Ironwood is actually going to follow through with what he said. She's looking at the cameras and apparently setting them up on loop so they can sneak through the academy without being detected, but on those images you can see how the bomb is being loaded on to one of the ships. Ironwood is certainly going to follow through with his plan. But it's interesting that both of them were able to find out where their weapons were. I don't really know if either of them know the layout of Atlas Academy that well. Maybe they interrogated a soldier on the way and found out where their weapons were or something like that, but it's still pretty interesting how they immediately knew where to go to find their weapons. At this point, though, they sneak through the academy, going to the elevator where Crow is determined to go straight up to Ironwood and end his life. But Robin stops him as he's getting increasingly angry, saying that Ironwood deserves this. And just as I mentioned in that relationship video as well, Robin thinks very highly of Crow. She sees him as someone who always fights for what is right, and comments that he is the better huntsman than Clover because of that fact. Clover couldn't do what was right, but Crow did and continues fighting for that. She turns to him and asks him, "Don't tell me that has changed." Robin is trying to keep Crow grounded, and regardless of if these two end up in a relationship together, I really want to see them interact more and, help support one another, because Robin realizes that Crow has been hurting for a very long time, and she wants to help him, so I'm curious to see where this is going to go in the future. But as they are talking, the elevator opens behind them. Both of them turn with their weapons drawn, but then they're shocked at who they see. And considering they start lowering their weapons, it's obviously someone they see as an ally. And obviously, or at least the most obvious choice would be for who this is Winter and Marrow. Marrow probably being out of handcuffs at this time, and now there's going to be this group of 4 that is going to travel and go after Ironwood, which is going to be a pretty good matchup, considering now it's going to be 4v4. Crow, Robin, Marrow, and Winter versus Ironwood, Harriet, Vine, and Elm. Marrow's probably going to be able to convince Elm to switch sides. Then it's going to be maybe Robin versus Vine or Robin versus Harriet, because Harriet's very angry at Crow, and, well, Robin might step in to try to prevent Harriet from attacking Crow, so Crow can go after Ironwood, and then Winter will either end up in conflict against Vine or Harriet, or some way that this is going to match up. I think that Marrow is going to convince Elm at the very least to, turn away from the Aesop side, that she's not doing what is right, and Crow is going to be able to confront Ironwood. The way that it's all going to match up is going to be very fun to see, and I'm guessing that at least 1 or 2 of them is gonna die in that conflict, but, 3 more episodes to come. That conflict might be next episode, so we'll see. And then we get the conversation between RWBY and Yang. Probably the most impactful conversation of this episode. A lot of things happened, a lot of things were revealed, but this one is extremely important. Yang is praising RWBY for how she and the rest of their group defeated the Hound. That Yang's group struggled against it quite a bit, and now RWBY has kind of one-upped her in a way. But RWBY asks her, "Did Blake tell you what it was? That it was a corrupted, silver-eyed warrior?" And RWBY comments, "This is what happened to Mom. This is what happened to Summer Rose. Salem used to kill silver-eyed warriors, like Maria, but she's always wanted RWBY taken alive. Why would that change unless when Salem met Summer, she learned she could do something different?" This is something that I 100% called. It's very rare that I get to say that, but the video I made earlier this weekend had planned to make a couple weeks ago, but was busy with other things. Summer, when she went to face Salem, set things in motion for everything in RWBY. This is one of the things that Summer triggered when she went to face Salem. That she showed Salem the Silver Eyes could be used differently. Something happened during that fight where Salem realized the Silver Eyes could be corrupted. But, as I mentioned in that video, there are other things that Summer showed Salem that is causing her to act now. So I highly recommend going to watch that video, as it turns out that it's already half true, so the other half might certainly be true as well. So we'll have to see, and I'm really looking forward to what other reveals are coming this volume. As Yang breaks down crying at the realization of what RWBY said is likely true, RWBY starts doubting herself, that everything she's done up till now, that going after Amity was just wasting her time, that they failed in doing so. Yang points out that her group failed as well, which, considering that they went and fought a couple of Grimm, they did rescue a number of people, but then had to take off after Oscar, and Amity did end up crashing to the ground. You know, both things weren't exactly successful, but both of them were partially successful. Yang and her group did help a bunch of the people of Mantle, and RWBY did get a majority of her message out. Help could still be coming. They don't know if everything was a failure yet. But Yang tells her that everything is a risk. Nothing is a guarantee. Nothing is a sure thing. They just have to keep pushing forward and not give up. Yang also mentions that Summer took a risk by going to face Salem. It likely didn't turn out how she had planned, but Summer is still her hero. As Yang embraces RWBY and RWBY begins to cry as well, they hear glass break and John running past them, saying everyone needs to hurry outside, as the virus has started to take control of Penny again. All of them rush out and try to stop her from leaving. She's saying that she needs to go to the vault and self-terminate. She's trying to fight against it, but is seeming to be incapable of doing so. RWBY grabs onto her around her waist as Penny tries to fly up into the sky, and everyone else latches onto her. Ren using the extensions of his Stormflower, and Blake using the ribbon from Gamble's Shroud, and everyone else hanging on to both of them to try to pin Penny down, as well as Weiss using her gravity glyphs to hold her to the ground. And she's still able to fight against this. Using the Maiden Power, she starts to take off again, and Emerald steps in, latching on with another point of holding her to the ground, and yells at John to do something. He runs over to Weiss, boosts her aura so her glyphs can actually hold Penny to the ground regardless, and RWBY turns to Penny saying, "Tell me what I can do to help." At this point, Penny tells her friend, her first friend in the world, to kill her, to end her life, and Penny can ensure that the powers would be transferred to RWBY. That this is the only way, because she can't fight against the virus. But Nora speaks up, saying that she can fight the virus, that it is only a part of her. You can't forget the rest. If Penny was just a machine, she never would have been able to fight it for this long in the first place. RWBY realizes that Nora is right. She yells at John to boost Penny's aura, and as he does so, Penny regains control. She's able to fight back the virus. It's still there within her, and she can still feel its influence, but she is able to control herself. She has an aura, has a soul, and is not just a machine. They're really pushing the Nora and Penny interactions here as well, which makes me think that instead of the Maiden Powers being transferred to RWBY, as it kind of teased here, it might end up being transferred to Nora, as I thought before, which, you know, with the way things are going to develop, could certainly still be a possibility. As everyone is gathered around Penny, happy that their friend is okay, Emerald is the one who speaks up, saying, "I think you're wrong, by the way," talking to RWBY directly about the comment she made earlier about being back where they started. And she says, "You're not back where you started. Sure, you've been getting your asses handed to you. And part of that is my fault, but you've all come a long way as well. And, quite frankly, she's gonna be real pissed if y'all just decide to give up now after she has finally decided to switch sides." Emerald has officially joined Team RWBY, Team Juniper, and Ozpin's faction as a whole. I'm really curious to know what the team breakdown is going to be, what groups are going to be formed, and how all of these interactions are going to go. I really want to see more interactions between Emerald and everyone else, and in particular, one interaction that I'm really curious about is Oscar and Emerald. I never really saw them as a potential pairing, but you never know. Oscar was the first person to trust Emerald, and Emerald seems quite fond of Oscar for doing so, so I'm curious to see what interactions will end up with them. In the previous review, I said that Emerald might be the one to steal the lost memory and use that to some degree then, but I think Oscar might end up entrusting the last bit of that power to Emerald if he's knocked aside, if the cane is knocked out of his hand, and Emerald is the only one standing there to be able to use it. I think that might be an interesting way that things would play out, that Oscar does put his faith in Emerald, and she can prove herself even more at that point, prove herself to the rest of Team RWBY and Team Juniper, etc. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more interaction of Emerald with really all of this cast. Assuming, of course, she survives to the end of Volume 8, because nothing is certain. Everyone starts chuckling as Emerald has just lightened the mood, and Ozpin wants to address them all. So Oscar switches control of his body to Ozpin, and he apologizes to them. That he should have trusted them in the beginning. He failed them when he lied, and also when he ran after they learned the truth. But everyone, after everything that they had been through, realizes that trusting someone is a risk that has burned Ozpin many times in the past. And Ozpin asks them to take that risk with him again. All of them agree to take that risk, and finally, all of this group is now united, presumably all trusting one another to be on the same side. But one slight problem still. The virus is still fighting against Penny, and Nora comments that she has to get to the vault. And RWBY realizes that's a risk we hadn't considered yet, just going along with Ironwood's demands and going to the vault. Which I want to point out that the virus implanted in Penny, its orders are not just to go to the vault. It's to go to the vault and then self-terminate. Sure, going to the vault solves one part of the virus, but after the vault is opened, the virus is going to command Penny to kill herself. That's something that needs to be dealt with. The virus needs to be overcome entirely. I fear that the vault is going to be opened by Penny, and then, well, she's going to follow through with the other part of the virus or end up being killed in some way. Then the Maiden powers will transfer to Nora, she'll be able to get the Relic of Creation, and along with Pietro's help, be able to revive Penny. At least, that's my overall thought process. But the episode ends off with Ironwood standing in the cavern underneath Atlas, in front of the vault where the Relic of Creation is housed. RWBY is calling him, saying that Penny will do it. But he's not the only one listening to this call, as we see Watts hacking into an Atlesian knight, and with a scroll he is able to hear Ironwood's conversation. It's a bit staticky when they say this, but the orders that Ironwood gives is at the entrance to Atlas Academy. Penny comes alone. Cinder is standing behind Watts as this conversation is happening, and Neo arrives as well, which Cinder seems happy about. I don't think Neo brought the relic with her, but Neo is still going to work with Cinder to get revenge on RWBY. And so all of this conflict is going to happen at the entrance to Atlas Academy. And this is where the episode ends. A lot happened this episode, and a lot is being set up for, presumably, next episode, with this conflict that is going to arise. All of the Aesops, and likely Ironwood as well, are going to greet Penny at the entrance to Atlas Academy. Neo and Cinder are going to be there as well, presumably Watts too, but also the rest of Team RWBY's group, or they might branch off at that point to go into Atlas Academy, sneak in to try to save Robin and Crow, only to find that they had released themselves, or were released by Cinder. But the thing is, Penny is certainly not going to be going alone, because Team RWBY and Juniper now have someone with an illusion semblance on their side. Emerald can create hallucinations in multiple people at the same time. So when Penny walks up to greet the Aesops, Team RWBY and everyone else can be there alongside her, or depending on how the groups break up. Likely RWBY is going to be there because Cinder and Neo are going to be there for the confrontation as well. Cinder wants the Maiden powers from Penny, and Neo wants to go after RWBY. Now, depending on how all of that breaks down, the truth is finally going to be revealed to Neo that RWBY didn't actually kill Roman, and whether that truth is revealed through the Relic of Knowledge will be another question entirely, because I don't think Neo brought the relic with her. Because if she did, Cinder might just try to take the relic from her by force, though Cinder would also need an ally. Fighting alone against Penny and everyone else there probably wouldn't be in her best interest, so maybe Cinder is actually thinking a bit more strategic, being a bit more smart as Watts is advising, and Cinder may actually be listening to Watts in general now, which would be a nice change for her character. I have a feeling after this volume, Cinder is going to break away from Salem on her own and possibly take Watts and maybe Neo with her and form her own faction. Then it'll be Salem's faction, Cinder's faction, and RWBY's faction fighting against one another as everyone heads to Vacuo for another academy to potentially fall, or rather the final stand at the last academy. Though Beacon Academy we still need to return to at some point as well. Overall, this was a fantastic episode. Ren and Nora finally confessed their feelings to one another, and it's set up for them to progress further in the future once Nora finds out who she is or becomes comfortable with who she is. As I mentioned in my episode 3 review, we all know who Nora is. Ren knows who Nora is, and all of her friends do as well. It just is up to Nora to realize that herself. And once she does, I'm really looking forward to where her and Ren's relationship will be. Assuming, of course, they both survive, which the death flags are there, and I really hope they're false. I'm happy to see that Emerald has now officially joined up with their team, and once they get to Vacuo, again, assuming Emerald survives, she might be able to convince Mercury to join up as well. That would be amazing to see. I want to see everyone work with Mercury, and perhaps Jean may even be able to boost Mercury's aura and trigger the reawakening of his semblance, or something like that. With a semblance tied to the soul, well, when a soul is amplified or stirred in some way, like Jean's aura is able to do, maybe that could reawaken Mercury's semblance, though that's a topic for a different video, one that I might make a little bit later on. And then the biggest thing to happen this episode, the realization that Summer going to face Salem triggered the creation of the Hound. Exactly what I had mentioned before, that she used to kill Silver-Eyed Warriors, but now wants them taken alive. And Summer was the trigger. I still believe that Summer triggered everything in RWBY, and it's looking like that might turn out to be true. So again, if you have not already, check out that video. Let me know what you think, because it seems to have quite a lot to stand on now. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you want to see more analyses, more reviews, more RWBY theories in general, then make sure to subscribe and join the Guild of the Eternal Flame. Tweet me at PhoenixKnight7, and I'll see you guys in the next video.